Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today we'll be looking at what will happen in a legal sense if Johnny loses his libel claim against the Sun. So we'll be looking at two different factors, the consequences and also what options does Johnny have if he wants to pursue this case further. Now do bear in mind that everything I say in this video is equally applicable to the Sun or NGN if they lose the trial. So the consequence of losing a case in the law is usually a costs order. Now, of course, Johnny will suffer far worse consequences with regards to his reputation if he loses, but I'm not necessarily talking about that. I think that's a given. So this is purely from a legal standpoint. So in the law, including in the UK where this case is being held, the general rule is costs follow the event, which means that the losing party pays the legal costs of the winning party. And legal costs are expensive. So costs are a discretionary matter, which means that it's up to the court to decide whether to make a costs order and how much should be paid. There are three factors that a court must take into consideration when deciding whether to make a costs order or not. And they are the conduct of all the parties, whether a party has succeeded on part of its case, even if that party has not been wholly successful, and any admissible offer to settle. Now that last one is inapplicable to Johnny's case because neither party has made an offer to settle at any point during this trial. I mean, honestly, I think the only reason NGN has even fought this hard and has decided to take this to trial is because it's publicity for them and for their newspaper. And any publicity is good publicity. They could have made an offer to settle at some point to avoid taking this to trial. But to them, they have a lot of money. NGN is a huge entity, and I really doubt they would have cared too much if they lost, because this isn't about their reputation. They're a tabloid magazine. It doesn't matter what they post. They don't care what the public's opinion of them is. I personally believe that they just want the attention. So I suppose the good news for Johnny in this situation is it is a discretionary matter, which means it's not set in stone. He may not have to pay the other party's legal costs. And let's face it, Mr. Sherborne and Johnny have said time and time again, this isn't about money. Johnny has a lot of money. Of course, it's going to suck if he had to pay the legal costs of the opposing party, not necessarily because of the money. It adds insult to injury. So I don't doubt Johnny can afford to pay it. It's just the principle of the matter. All right, now the more important aspect of this video, which is the appeals process. Now, if you lose a case, you may have the chance to appeal that decision to a higher court. Now, there is a legal doctrine that prevents parties from reopening or refiling a case to be heard over and over again. So once a decision has been made, that decision is honored. It is set in stone, and you cannot file another case based on the same claim unless you file an appeal to have the original decision reviewed by a higher court. So it's not restarting a fresh case, it's a review. Appeals are always decided by a higher court. So in this case, the original decision will be made by a high court judge, which means an appeal will be made to the Court of Appeal in the UK. And then the ultimate appeal, if it ever gets there, would be to the Supreme Court. Let's say Johnny makes an appeal all the way to the Supreme Court and they uphold the trial judge's decision, then that is the end of the line. He will have no further option at that point. All right, so let's say Johnny wants to file an appeal. He cannot do that unless he satisfies at least one of the grounds of appeal. Permission to appeal may be given only where the court considers that the appeal would have a real prospect of success or there is some other compelling reason for the appeal to be heard. So it's pretty much on a case-by-case basis, and the courts decide whether these factors have been met or not. Now, of course, Johnny's lawyers would have to argue the grounds of appeal that they believe justify appealing this case. And Johnny would have two chances to file an appeal. Once at the High Court in which the trial decision was made, and if that's rejected, then he can file one more time with the Court of Appeals itself. Now let's say it gets to an appeal. What happens then? So an appeal court can affirm, set aside, or vary any order or judgment made or given by the lower court. It can refer any claim or issue for determination by the lower court or order a new trial or hearing. So In this case, every time you hear me say lower court, that is the high court, so the original court in which the trial was held. And this is the most important part. Appeals are not a chance to introduce new evidence and to make new arguments. As I said at the beginning of this video, they are simply a review of the trial and the decision that was made. So they will only take into consideration all of the evidence and the arguments that were relied on at the trial phase. However, as always in the law, there is an allowance for exceptional circumstances. It's also important to note that an appeal court will not receive oral evidence. So all of the witnesses that gave their testimony during the trial will not be called upon to testify again. So the Court of Appeal will consider their witness statements and of course the transcripts of the trial that contain the testimony in written form. An appeal will usually be successful if it is found that the decision of the lower court was wrong or unjust because of a serious procedural or other irregularity. In this situation, since I have followed the trial very carefully, I didn't personally detect any procedural irregularity. So in this case, if it is appealed, it will most likely be because the decision arrived at by the trial judge was considered to be wrong. That's it for this video. I hope you guys found it informative. I do try to inform you about legal processes that you can translate into your real life rather than just talk about things that are relevant to Johnny. Any one of us can be involved in a court case or in a trial, so it's good to know these things. I hope you found it informative. I hope you found it helpful. And most importantly, I think we're all hoping that Johnny doesn't have to get to this stage and that the trial judge rules in his favor, because as I said in my previous video, it's not simply about Johnny winning, it's about the truth prevailing. As always, do let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, stay safe, and I'll catch you in a future video.